'cause people around are about to break it down. Like the one-on-one, the game at least one time.
But that person wasn't you, Rob.
No, definitely not.
At all?
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all. Maryanne and Rob without a doubt got the game all figured out. They know it all.
Survivor know-it-alls, yes! Finale night! We're here!
Yeah.
Maryanne Oketch, the Survivor winner, is here with us to break down a new
Oh,
era
my-
finale. Maryanne, how are you?
I'm doing amazing. I can't believe that from the time that I knew that Rob existed to the time of now being on Know It Alls has been 5 years. And I think it's just so amazing to be on, especially because this is pretty much 1 year to date since all of y'all found out that I won.
Congratulations
So,
again.
Thank you.
Congratulations again. Stephen Fishback is not with us tonight,
No.
but in addition to the amazing news that we have Maryanne, a honest to goodness Survivor winner, here with us. Stephen Fishback will be part of our coverage tomorrow here on Rob as a Podcast. So I'll be checking in with Stephen tomorrow afternoon. So we will still get to hear Stephen's thoughts on all things Survivor 44 coming up on Thursday, also, where I will get to chat with the final 5 from Survivor 44, including our brand new Survivor winner, Jam Jam. Maryanne, have you texted Jam Jam yet to congratulate him and welcome him to the Winners Club?
No, I have not. When I won, I think I had 50 billion, bajillion, quadrillion
Yes.
texts.
See,
And
I
I'm
wouldn't
pretty
know.
sure to this day I have not. That's because you didn't have texting back in the day, Rob, okay?
That was texting. Texting was invented.
Only 150 characters, Rob.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. If you get my flip phone out and I could show you.
Yes, but it is so overwhelming. Like everything, like Instagram flooded, Twitter flooded, your phone flooded, Facebook flooded, okay, Snapchat flooded. So, I'm so happy for Jam Jam. And when the time comes, I'll go and spread my happiness and joy. I think
Yeah.
it took me 20 years to tell Gabe for congratulations. But at that time, I know my message will then finally be heard and it's not as overwhelming and I'm not adding to the multitude of noise that's there. Like
Yes.
1 year later and I still haven't responded to all my messages. So
Okay. Well, we will be talking about all things from this Survivor 44 finale. 3 hours of stuff to unpack here tonight. Of course, this weekend, also, I will be getting into a Survivor feedback show with your friend and mine, Zach Wertenberger, is going to be joining me for a Survivor feedback show.
Love Zach. Everything that he says, he's gold. I'm so excited to hear what he's thinking. And I think it's a perfect bookend. You have the first and the last.
The first and the last from 1 year ago. Okay, so make sure you're subscribed for all of that. Rob has a website, .com/survivor feed for all things Survivor. Rob has a website.com/subscribe for all things RHAP. Maryanne, how are you doing tonight?
Oh my goodness, I'm doing good. That finale was finaleing. It felt like I heard from every single person. It felt like a cinematic masterpiece. We had a Clark jump scare, which was super fun, especially for the players. Clark was the person that you were hearing when Carolyn was speaking.
Yes.
So it was
came full circle.
Yes, so it was a very full circle moment. It was such a fun finale to watch. I feel as if everyone had their moment to shine, and it was such a great ending as well too. But the one thing which I think was missing was in the after show. They didn't bring anything new that they did in 43. But other than that, mwah. But you know how I feel about the after show to begin with.
I don't know how you feel about the after show. You don't like it?
I think that it is doo-doo. I don't think that, yes. I don't think players, after having such an overwhelming experience of either winning or losing, should then have to sit down and eat pizza and discuss about how they felt.
Yeah.
I think there should be some time to go and decompress. I know, at least for
Sure.
me and my other players in my season, it was a lot to go and comprehend. And I know, speaking to other players, they feel the same way. So, the quality of it was good, but still, I'm always
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. I think maybe I had low expectations. I did think this was the best one of the 4 Survivor after shows. So I do feel like that
Yes.
we are making progress and it's
Yes.
getting better. But I do want to start with talking about our latest Survivor winner, Jam Jam. I thought he was just so impressive all the way
Yes.
through. I was surprised at the vote count. I didn't think it was going to be as much of a runaway, but more
Yes.
kudos to Jam Jam. Just I did not want to like post the congratulations Jam Jam tweet because then I see people get dragged for that. I'll be you ruined the show for me. But let me say it here. Congratulations to
Yes.
Jam Jam on an incredible job. I was impressed with him really all season long.
Yes, I was so impressed with Jam Jam. He had such incredible social reads, understanding. I think there was only one time that he was blindsided, and it was pre-merge when you're still getting your footing in the game. And other than that, he had his finger on the pulse. I was just always so floored by his way that he explained how his social game was there, how he'd go and use how people's cues to go and see if they're lying or if they're not lying. I just
Yes.
found him just to have just a great final tribal, a great game, and he had such a great story from the beginning to the end about, if you write my name, you're going out, and I'm going to be strategic, and I'm going to be going and working with Tika, but then I'm also willing to go and cut Tika if I need to. It was just a great, great story.
Yeah, I love that part about how he would talk to you about what you love so he could see that twinkle in your eye. And then when you were lying to him and you didn't have that twinkle, he said, I have a super he told Jamie just last week, I have a superpower in this game. My superpower is I know
Mm-hmm.
when people are lying to me. And
Mm-hmm.
tonight he ends up telling his secrets of how he was able to do it. So I just think that he really was incredible in terms of that just how good his social game was. He could get the jury eating out of the palm of his hand at
Mm-hmm.
any point, and he was so good at this. Why, Maryanne, did people not think that Jam Jam was more of a threat all the way through this merge?
Oh my goodness. I think there's something that has to do with the way that people are perceived if they get votes in the beginning of the merge, right? If
Yes.
you get votes in the beginning of the merge, a lot of times you're seen not as a threat, but as an option to get out, right? And then after, so it's like, oh, we'll just do Jam Jam. Oh, this person or Jam Jam, this person or Jam Jam. But if you're able to go and pass those first few votes, you can kind of go, as Gabler so succinctly put it, under the radar under there. So then after, when there's other people who have been controlling the initial votes, the people who've been like either Jam Jam or this person, they get the heat in the middle of the game, which allows those people who had then had their name thrown in the beginning to then start making moves, to then start going and pulling those strings that they need to pull to then go and come out on top.
Yeah. I mean, in season 42, really all the people that were sort of at the bottom at the beginning of the merge, maybe except for, and you were not really on the bottom, but you were sort of aligned with like the Tories and the Romeos of the world. It was like that you couldn't ever, like those other people couldn't ever shake that perception, right?
Yeah, but you know what? Even though I wasn't on the bottom, perception is reality in this game. And for a majority of the people, except for Taku, I was on the bottom. So then in that way, people were navigating like I was on the bottom. So that's why the strategy of the bottom still works. Am I making sense? Did that make sense?
I think so. What
Okay.
is this? The strategy of the bottom is that you want to be on the bottom or just have people think you're on the
No,
bottom?
no, you
Yeah.
don't want to be on the bottom. You want to be like in that middle area where people aren't really thinking about you, right? But what
Yeah.
I mean by the strategy of the bottom is if you're early on in the merge when or as all the tribes are dissolved and living on one beach and your name is thrown there as an option, a lot of times people won't then put you in a position of power early in the merge. It's not going to be like, oh, Jam Jam was going to be the target last vote and this vote, let's go and all talk to Jam Jam to see what we want to do next. You're going to be
Hmm.
talking to people whose name haven't been thrown up because they have the more perceived power. So then when the mid merge comes and you're at the final 9, final 8, final 7, you're not looking at, oh, Jam Jam like was controlling these past votes, because clearly he wasn't, because why would Jam Jam want to have his name in the middle of the merge, right? You're going to look at the people like the Dannies of the world, and maybe the Franny's kind of with this, with being or the Brandon's being like, these people haven't even gotten their names put out. So clearly they're the ones who are running the show. And that's who you're going to want to target rather than the Jam Jams. So it's like, oh yeah, we think it was either Josh or Jam Jam. So let's just instead do Jam Jam, you know?
Maryanne, let's talk a little bit about Carolyn, because I do think that the big
Yes.
question that a lot of people have tonight is, why didn't Carolyn do better in the final three? We got to see so much of her story, and we got to
Mm-hmm.
see how she was, people like were disregarding her. I thought she
Mm-hmm.
did a very good job in the final tribal council. And I really was surprised that, not that she didn't win, but I was surprised that she was a zero vote finalist here and comes in third place. Nothing wrong with that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you think Carolyn went wrong, if anywhere?
I think that for Carolyn, a lot of people respected her game. It wasn't that her game wasn't respected. The thing though was that people respected Jam Jam's game more. And in this game, it's like you're only able to vote for the person who you want to win. You only have one vote, exactly as Jeff said it. If you had two votes, Carolyn, probably you'd have more votes because people are like, I respect Carolyn's game. I really love what she's doing. But
Should
when
Survivor have ranked choice voting in the final three?
you see, I personally believe that preferential voting is the most democratic way
Oh,
to vote. And I
Maryanne,
can go on
we
rants
we
and
could
rants
we
about
could go
it.
on and on. I think it could save the whole freaking system. But it's probably not for this podcast.
But yes, not for this podcast, and just the logistics of adding a preferential vote specifically only for final tribal, I think becomes really crunchy.
Yes.
But I think the point which I'm trying to say here, especially for Carolyn, is that people respected her game, but they wanted Jam Jam to win more. So people are like, well, I guess I'm just going to vote for Jam Jam. But Carolyn, like, you did amazing, right?
Yeah. I mean, Carolyn did go on such a journey. She was so beloved
Mm-hmm.
by not just the other players in the game, but by everybody who watched the show. So she really did a remarkable job. The Tikas really were able to resist the urge to turn on one another. It seemed like that the
Mm-hmm.
only person that really did have that instinct was Jam Jam, where we saw him again potentially at the final five, talking about wanting to vote out Carolyn. Is that something that's interesting in terms of that Jam Jam is the winner of the season and is also the one person of the Tikas that seem to be the most interested in potentially taking them out?
I think that it is interesting. And the reason why I think that it's interesting is because I think that for Jam Jam, specifically what we've seen is that Jam Jam clearly could have beat Carolyn in the final three. But I think one thing that Jam Jam was thinking about wasn't specifically, oh my goodness, like Carolyn is like a big threat, but he was like in that sense, but he was thinking of Carolyn is a threat to me going and sitting in the final three seat because
Yes.
if you're trying to go and sit at the final three, you don't want people who are better than fire than you to be there. You don't want people who are going to be taking a seat away from you to be there. So that could be one of the reasons why Jam Jam was really targeting Carolyn, especially since he did have a little bit of a relationship as well with Lauren and with Heidi, and started to have and continue to talk to those people that whole time.
Maryanne, I came away from tonight feeling like if it was an all Tika final three, I'm wondering if Carson would not have been the winner.
I think that Carson would have been the winner, especially the way that the people in the final four were talking about Carson. It seems that Carson
Yeah.
had a significantly higher win equity than what we were seeing on the show. Carson was kind of seen like, oh, I'm just trying to keep Tika together. I'm being strategic and I want to keep Tika together, right? And then some people are like, oh yeah, Carson's a threat. Carson's a threat. But then in the end, when he lost Samotion and Jam Jam's like, yeah, Carson is literally going to win this game. And it sucks that he's just that one pace off. Or Heidi's like, yeah, Carson's obviously the biggest threat. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. It's been Carolyn Jam Jam, Carolyn Jam Jam, Carson, Carolyn Jam Jam, Jam Jam, Carson. But like, it seemed that like on the island, the perception was that it was like, Carson!
Yeah, for sure. Maryanne, did you know that when you were at the final four and you called out, no, did anybody even know the name of Samotion? I don't know. But did you know that that's the best view in Fiji?
Did I know that that was the best view in Fiji? It better be. I had to hike up so high to get there. Okay, you got to go walk up hills and a step
Yeah.
and everything. But it was it's funny because it's the best view, but you only get to see the view if you lose some motion early. So if we're looking back at it,
Yeah.
and technically, I would like to say on the audience, apparently it's not the amount of food that they give us in the new era. We just all sucked at Samotion because season 44 got their rice later and they did significantly better than we did in 42 in Samotion. So clearly we
Okay.
just were all very bad. But I think that like it is a beautiful view, but usually you're not really looking at being like, oh my gosh, I got out
Yeah.
and let me not just look at the view. You're looking at the game. So I guess the only person who's seeing the view is Jeff. So I guess that's why he has it in the most beautiful view because he's like, yeah, I just want to have the best view for the last challenge.
Okay. I don't want to go much further without mentioning the winner of Samotion. What is this? The Survivor After Show? Because we want to talk about Heidi. And this was so interesting here tonight because I was just, talking this through on one of the podcasts where I had said, nobody, the final four immunity challenge winner has not gone on to win the game since Chris Underwood. And all of them have not they have not put themselves into the fire. And that's the cop out. Oh, Natalie, if you know what, if you would have made the fire, Cassidy, if you would have made the fire, then, but here we go. Here's Heidi, wins Final Four, makes the fastest fire ever, and still 7-1. What the freaking hell? Right? Isn't Cassidy like breaking her TV tonight? Like, I thought you just have to make the fire, right?
Oh, Rob, I have so many thoughts about fire. At least personally for me, I do not think that fire making or putting yourself in fire should be something that is of significant value. And this is why. Because I think that going and putting 23 or 20, like 25 days worth, and then saying that one mass and equating 25 days worth of work to around 3 to 5 minutes worth of a fire making is invalidating the work that you're putting into the game. And in addition, if you win Final Four immunity, you're now telling me that winning is basically not worth it, that now it's better for you to lose the game so you can take someone out at fire. So like if you're not, so it's like you better be bad at challenges and good at fire to have a better strategic resume. That doesn't make sense, and it devalues the work that people put to win that Final Four immunity. What's the point of having the Final Four immunity if you don't even want to win it? If you want to either be taken to the end and say that it's strategic, or have to go into fire and then say that it's strategic. It seems that going and winning the Final Four immunity, like the real point about going and putting yourself in the final three is the kiss of death. And that makes no sense. Like if we're talking about the physical part of Survivor and then Heidi saying that her physical part of Survivor was going to fire and not winning a challenge, which is a physical part of Survivor, it doesn't make any sense to me. I think it just confounds me, especially as someone who is so fire adverse, to see people putting fire on such a high pedestal. And this is my last part in the rant, I promise, Rob. We go and we also elevate players who are able to go and manipulate people, like you see Omar, who's like, oh, I'm able to go and whisper this person and then I can get my plan and play under the radar. You see the people like flip-floppers like you who are able to go and have that strategy and to go and flip to and get people to do what you do, and we hail them and like, this is good strategy. But then if you're winning the Final Four, final making, and you accurately choose a person who will take out the person that you want out, you're now that onus isn't on you. You had the power to decide who was going to be there. And now it's basically putting all that power, not on the person who made that decision, but on the person who actually did that. It's like a role about like who is actually responsible for a move. But yeah,
okay,
that's all I got.
That was wonderful. Do you feel like that tonight, after we watched Heidi win the challenge, put herself into the fire making, make the fastest fire, and then only get one vote, is the fallacy tonight shattered for future Survivor players? Is this now an illusion of that you have to do this because it did not change the outcome?
Oh, I sure really do hope so. Like I said, we could just go and rewind back for 3 minutes and we can say all the reasons why. I don't think it should be. But the thing is, like, I think, like you said, saying you should have made fire is just a cop out for when you're not vibing with a finalist's decision, right?
Yeah.
Because, like I said, people aren't going to equate 25 days worth of work to 3 minutes. It's not enough to
Yeah.
balance.
Yes. I believe the jury does what the jury wants to do
Mhm.
and then changes the goalposts based off of like, yeah, well, you didn't do this other thing. Like, oh, I would have like, oh, but you didn't do this. So I'm sorry.
Mhm.
That's really what it comes down to. So sorry, Heidi. Yeah, you made the fire, but you didn't have that social game
Mhm.
engineered with the jury. I just think that they will they vote for who they fair or unfair. Like
Mhm.
the jury, I don't think that they do not decide their votes and award their votes in the same way fans who watch the show
Mhm.
really like, oh, this person had this many comp wins,
Mhm.
voted correctly 66.67% of the time. They just are going to do what they want to do.
Mhm. But I do want to say, even though I did just go on a massive anti-fire rant, I do want to hail Heidi, not even as the person to make the fastest fire, but she's actually the first woman to beat a man in forced fire making. So that was
Okay.
35 onwards. So that's something, like I said,
Yeah.
I love patterns and trends. And every time a man faces a woman in fire making, the woman always loses. But this is the first time that that didn't happen. And I do want to go
Yes.
and give her her flowers and respect for that. Should
Sure.
she have been in the position to go and make fire after she won the Final Four? But
Look, I respect it. I feel like that she felt like, hey, I need to, and she knew she was up against really tough competition.
mhm,
And so she felt like, okay, well, this is something I need to do to be
mhm,
able to stand out more.
mhm,
And I feel like that, if anything, I feel like that Heidi, I think we can all agree that she was under served in the edit
mhm,
and did not get, and it's hard because, there's only so much time in the show
mhm,
and she's in the game with, the Jam and Carolyn just to start, who are just like, all-time characters
mhm.
there that are getting a ton of the screen time. So it's hard for her to stand out in that way. But I felt like that even at the after show, I felt like that they could have done more of talking to Heidi.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they could have told Heidi's story more, especially since I was at least going into the finale thinking that it was going to be Jam Jam who was winning and then Carolyn would be second. So then after to see that Carolyn had 0 votes and then after that Heidi, even though the vote that she had did make sense and I understood it, that's not what I thought was going to happen, which is totally fine.
Mhm. I was overall pretty impressed with this jury, I have to say. I feel like that this jury came across as one of the least bitter juries of all time. Was that your assessment also?
I think that from what we've seen, yes, it
From
seemed
what
like
we've seen, what we
yes.
saw, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't me saying that I know more. This is just me saying from what we've seen, yes, because there are people in juries who can go and hide their bitterness and it only comes until after the fact, right?
Yes.
But like at least from what we've seen, it seems that they were very what's the word? Is it unobjective or objective is the word I'm looking
Yeah, I think
for?
they seemed very objective. They
Yes.
seemed very, very positive and
Yes.
uplifting. I will say
Yes.
though that there were a number of members of the jury that really were purple edit in the jury. And I do
Yes.
wonder if maybe they had nothing to say, or maybe like what they were saying did not necessarily like all connect with the story that we were
Yeah.
getting at the final tribal council of just how uplifting and
Mhm.
optimistic everybody was.
I'm gonna go with the latter that it didn't just go with the story because everyone at the jury speaks. You don't go get voted out, have a chance to go and actually speak for the first time in X amount of
Mhm.
days, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna sit down and let everyone else
Yeah.
speak. That's not what jury members do. So I think we just didn't see it. Maybe the questions didn't go flow with the story. That not saying that the questions that they asked were negative, but maybe they just didn't flow with the story of the questions that the editors wanted to show us.
Yeah. Brandon, Jamie, and Lauren even too. I felt
Mhm.
like that they were very just absent from the final tribal council question. I mean, they
Yeah.
all end up voting for Jam Jam.
Yes, they did. It was Danny who voted for Heidi.
Yes. Danny, who, let us know that he was going to be completely objective, that he would, if his own mom was up there, I didn't have a good case, he would vote for her, but then voted for the person that was his number one ally who gave the best answer.
Yeah, that's a trend that we've been seeing since the new era. That the one votes always come from the friend.
Yes, all 4 seasons of the new era. That was all 7-1.
All 7-1. And I remember going and winning, and being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got 7-1 votes. That's so amazing. Like, I
Yes.
can't believe I did that. Then I saw Erica do it. I'm like, that's such a weird coincidence. Two Canadians both 7-1. And then I saw Gabler do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, another
Yes.
7-1. Like, okay. And then now I see Jab Jab do it. I'm like, okay,
Yes.
there's something in the
I don't
water.
know. Yes. It is pretty wild. All 7-1. And for diverse winners, the
Mm-hmm.
spirit of Cook Islands is alive and well, Maryanne. Look at us.
Shut it down.
No, good. No.
No, yes, I know the spirit of Cook Islands. So
Yeah.
congratulations to Erica, I guess, for being the winner of winners. Are we going to come back as a captain season?
I don't know if they ever don't do it again.
Oh my gosh, is there going to be a bottle? Is the bottle going to be a bottle that everyone's...
no bottle. Yeah, but this was a really a really special like group that was just like everybody was a love fest at this final tribal council.
Yeah, it seemed that everyone was respectful of everyone's game. The people were interested in going and asking questions. People were listening to everyone. And it seemed a lot of the times that the jury were asking questions, listening to the jury, the final three's answers, and then asking clarifying questions rather than critiquing what the jury was saying or nitpicking what they were saying.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In terms of like the big moves of the night, I mean, like the Lauren vote ended up being like a pretty straightforward affair. I was actually a little surprised that they went into that final 5 vote with there being like almost no drama around. Like the only possible drama was that does Lauren potentially have the idol, and then they clearly showed us her not finding the idol.
Yeah, I think we've just had very, what's the word? Uneventful final 5 votes. It just seems like a time when, especially in this new era, you just have a target that everyone's targeting. You're just like, you know what? Let's just get this target out and then we'll think about 4. That was Lindsay for us in the final 5, where we're just like, let's just get Lindsay out. She's a threat, instead of like going and trying to make it super cute and super fancy and do something wild.
Yeah, it seemed like there was maybe a little bit of intrigue about that. Okay, did Heidi and Lauren flip Carolyn around? That maybe, is Carolyn mad that Jam Jam was saying her name? But it seemed like she was annoyed with Jam Jam, but I just feel like that it was sort of like she wasn't going to do anything about it, but Jam Jam was in the doghouse.
Yes, that's what it felt like as well, too. But I think
you're sleeping on the couch tonight, Jam Jam, on that new hit show that Jam Jam and Carolyn are married in.
Yes, sleeping in the doghouse. But I think the thing especially that made it weird was that, Carolyn's mad at Jam Jam. But then at this point, Heidi and Lauren are like, okay, let's maybe do a move on Jam Jam. So he's getting multiple weird energy from multiple different people. And so when you're getting a ping from like ping, 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 Carolyn, ping, 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 Lauren, ping, 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 Heidi from these 3 people, and you touch base with Carson, and Carson's like, yeah, this is kind of weird to me too. You're going to be like, okay, well, this is the final 5. I don't want to be voted out of final 5. So it's like, I'm still good with Lauren, but how am I going to just like, make it super safe that we're all on the same page and that we're just going to go and make sure that I'm not gone. So that's what it seemed, more like a contingency vote with Heidi rather than okay, I actually want to get Heidi out for this vote.
I thought it was interesting that Jam Jam put his vote on Heidi at the final 5.
Oh, rather than Carolyn?
I guess that just, do you think that was just a matter of like, okay, just in case Lauren does have the idol, let's go ahead.
Yes, it seems like that's how I interpreted it, that like Jam Jam didn't want to go and get Carolyn out. Jam Jam just wanted to make sure that it was not him out if Lauren had something, So you just put a vote on Heidi. Then if Lauren goes and plays the idol, then it's like, okay, on a revote, you still have your 2 Tika, and then it's Heidi who goes home and not me. So it seemed like a little bit of a safety move rather than okay, actually, let's flip the vote and get Heidi out.
Okay. Now, Heidi also, she has her big move of her own where she wins that final 4. And that has also been a theme in the new era of just sort of like out of nowhere final 4 immunity wins for the most part, maybe other than Xander winning one, right? So we get Heidi wins immunity, and then she picks Carson. Did she pick the right Tika? Would there have been a better move for her?
You see, this is the thing where it's like I understand why Heidi, if Heidi believes that Carson is the biggest threat, would want to then go and take Carson out herself. Because it's like, if you go and put someone in like Jam Jam and then he wins fire, if the jury perceives fire to be a resume builder, then you're going and helping the resume.
Right.
Like I said, I personally don't believe that's how it should be interpreted, but it doesn't matter about what I believe. It matters what the jury believes and what you think that the jury believes. It seems like, okay.
Yeah.
So if then Heidi's like, okay, I want to make one final move. I want to get Carson out. Like, I think that she was smart to first take Carolyn first. I think that was a good move for her. But then after, it's like, if you then want to go and so to say neuter Jam Jam, you want to put that strong person first and be like, well, I don't want to do, like, if you believe in fire making is a move, then you want to explain, I'm taking this person because I don't want them to have that move for them, right? So what I'm trying to say is not that I agree with the viewpoint that fire should be a move, but if you believe it's a move, you got to commit to it. So be like, I don't want this person to get more on this move.
But isn't that what Xander tried?
Is it? I think that Xander's position was a little bit more different though, and like in his equity in the game was a little bit more different than Heidi's though, because a lot of people felt as if he was in a very bad, unwinnable situation, and the people that he chose wasn't a good, like, it was like he didn't choose the at least one right person to go and make fire.
Yeah. Okay. I really feel like that tonight with Heidi making the fire and it not working out for her, like I really do feel like that crutch argument of like, won the challenge, you got to make the fire. I feel like that really took a hit tonight. I think that was the biggest loser of the night, that argument.
I know, like, whew, thank goodness. Like, we don't need fire to win. It's like fire making should not be as big of a move as people have seen it. Jeff explicitly said that fire making was introduced to go and save those big threats. So why is it now seen as a way to be a move? Because it's not for the little people to go and have their final hurrah. It's for the big people to go and have their final aha.
I love the scene tonight where Jam Jam and Carolyn were facing off. The two people who ultimately didn't make the fire were having like their own fire making competition. And I loved that back and forth between the two of them.
Yes, my fire is higher. Okay, well, I'm on a slant. I'm on a slant too. Okay, but mine's here. But mine was here first. I think that just shows the genuine friendship that the two had, right? Because a lot of times if you're making fire in front of someone, that means that you're aligned with that person, right? Or you're willing to work with that person. So it's so interesting to see how it's like they were working together when there was a chance to be against each other. Because typically if you're helping someone make fire, you're thinking that one of you aren't going to be making fire.
You know, and we haven't talked really a lot about Carson, who ends up going out at the final four. I mean, the story of Carson was so interesting because the story of Carson really was, he was just this survivor, wonder kid, and learned everything about the game. And one of his greatest strengths was his preparation that he did to go out there. And he did, we don't know if he 3D printed that puzzle, but I think it's reasonable to assume the puzzle that he won the final five immunity on, that had been one that he had practiced. And he comes out, and even though he had practiced making the fire at home, Maryanne, on the island, it was a different story.
Yeah, I think, and do you mind if I get a little sciencey here?
Please.
I think this has to do with social facilitation. So for those who don't know what social facilitation is, this means that when you are in front of a group or being observed, you go to what is the most comfortable for you, what is most known. So for Carson is a self-proclaimed nerd. He loves puzzles and he understands how to do puzzles, and he's practiced them extensively. So when he's going and doing puzzles on Survivor and he's being observed and he knows that he's good at puzzles, he goes to what's known. And what is known is the puzzles that he studied, that he's actually good at puzzles, which is why you see him succeed. But by the way that we're hearing Carson talking about fire making, you could hear that he's nervous about it. He's like, oh no, am I good at it? Am I going to be okay at it? So when he's going and actually making fire, because of social facilitation, he goes to what's known. So instead of then maybe going with the strategy that like he knows mentally, he goes with whatever habits he's formed originally, which might not be as successful for making fire, which can then go and decrease his fire making ability, especially when you really start to get into your head and feel nervous. So social facilitation could be one of the reasons why, even though Carson was very prepared, wasn't able to perform as expected in fire making.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I not ever heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like that Jam also pointed out that his technique was bad.
Yeah. That could go with social facilitation. You know the right way to do it, but then
Mhm.
when the push comes to the shove, you go with what's the default. And if your technique isn't good and you go with your initial technique, then that's what you're going to be doing.
How's your technique?
How's my technique?
Yeah.
My fire making technique was that I would strike the magnesium and scrape it 50 times. Then I would flip it over and then immediately make fire, put kindling on. I'd put some sticks, then I'd put more kindling on to catch, like to make it really ignite. Then I'd build it up. So that was the strategy that I learned how to make fire with. And that's what worked for me before I went on the island. And that's what I was planning on doing if I had to make fire on the island.
Did you practice at all on the island? Because I didn't even think that was a thing that, like, okay, I know how to do it. It's just that also I don't know how to do it here. And I know Gabler had talked about that also, of like, oh yeah, it's different when you get here.
Yeah, so it's because when you practice on the island, you're not actually sitting down and be like, okay, I'm going to go and start the fire. Because a lot of times the fire is already going. So the way that you practice making fire is by building the fire, right? So if you're a fire tender, people are like, oh, this person's good at making fire. So if you're someone who tends the fire, people, that's your way of practicing, being like, what sticks work? Is my strategy still working? But then it's different because sometimes what you're using is what if it's raining, right? And then when you go and you start, but the materials that you have at home and the materials that you have on the island are different than the materials you have when you're actually doing the fire making challenge, right? Everything is dry. Those sticks are like the most cutest sticks you see. You could find those sticks at a Home Depot, not in the middle of a jungle. So you might not be then going and familiar with the materials that you have provided for you, which is why it's a little more different.
All right, Maryanne, you gave such a great final tribal council performance 1 year ago. What did you think of the 3 final tribal council performances?
Oh my goodness. I really enjoyed it. I love the self-awareness that we saw a lot in Jam and Carolyn. I thought that they had very good answers. I thought that Heidi also had good answers. My one critique about Heidi's final tribal performance is that it's a very big no-no to cut someone off when they're speaking. Especially because that just never looks good, because it's like if you feel confident in your game, why are you then specifically attacking someone when they have the ability to speak? You know, you can critique them when it's your turn to speak, but it's like, why are you then feeling the need at that moment to just be like, no, I'm going to cut you off right here, this is how it actually is. And it doesn't leave anyone with a good feel on their mouth.
Yeah, I agree that I did see that also pretty early on. But overall, I felt like that everybody had a pretty strong final tribal council.
Yes, it looked like, yes, all the answers that were given were good answers. It didn't feel like anyone had like an answer where it's like, you'd be like, huh? Like, that's not what we were looking for. Like, what? Like, excuse me?
Okay, Maryanne, any big thoughts from the Survivor after show? I know you're not a fan, but we really had a lot of interesting things that happened.
Oh my goodness. I think you mentioned previously that this was one of the better after shows.
I thought so.
And I think the reason why this was one of the better after shows is because we were starting to see questions that we previously saw when we had the reunions, right?
Yes.
So we're seeing questions about, oh, what about this showmance? What about this romance? We were seeing questions that had to do with multi-episode arcs, like, for example, the fake idol that Jamie had, right? And so when you get those storyline discussions, it's more exciting to be like, oh my goodness, like this feels more like a real reunion, especially like with Carolyn and Jam's like togetherness and like story arc. That's something that you'd be like, oh yeah, we saw the whole season and now like we get to go and like speak about it. When the previous Survivor questions were like, oh, remember the time when you found all these advantages? Or, oh, remember the time when you lost your idol clue? When it's like moments rather than the arcing story that's happening in the after show.
Now, I did feel like that telling Jamie about her fake idol, I did feel like that this was a good use of the Survivor after show where that they had the opportunity to like let the players know some things that they do not know yet because they haven't watched the show. I do think that that is interesting and something that we can only get in this format.
That is true because in any other season, Jamie would go home and then quickly realize that that was a fake idol. But seeing
Yes.
everyone's reaction, especially when we had such that buildup, it was like seeing Janine seeing her idol all over again from
Right.
season 43. You get that nice payoff that you've been waiting for, right? But that was, I guess, one positive in the multitudes of other not positive things I did
Mhm.
on the after show. So
Yes, I was also very surprised of how much Matt and Franny we got during. Now, I tweeted this out earlier. So I think Franny is an all-time juror. She was so good.
mhm,
Her reactions were big and fun, and like when
mhm,
something happened, or she'd grab her face and like
mhm.
her arms were out, and she was just like blown away at all these things that happened. And then her questions were really, really good. And then
Mhm.
that really I was not expecting, the Matt and Frank again, 26 days ago, they only just met. And really they were so just full tilt boogie about the relationship.
I think that's so fair, and I will defend Matt and Franny. And the reason is because when you play Survivor, a lot of times, a lot of people come with lifelong friendships, right? So, what's the difference between platonic love and relational love? It's just it's just the physicality of that relationship.
Hmm.
The feeling is of like passion is still the same. Once I left Survivor, it's like I still like came with such a massive love of Omer. Like I loved Omer, and then I that was after like what playing 23 days with him, and we're still friends to this day. So if Matt and Franny are already having that big relationship and like are so passionate, then clearly it's still the same, just a little bit more physical.
Hmm. Yeah. They were real. Even Jeff was like, Matt, I've never seen you having this much energy before.
I know Jeff was very excited, and Jeff always loves love. This is something that like he has
Yes.
been on the record multiple times.
Yes, he does. Him and Julie Chen Moonves. I don't know if he knows
I
that
don't
also Julie Chen Moonves has also said the same thing. I feel like he would not say it if
know.
he knew.
Julie Chen Movements does not love as much as Rob does.
As
Okay,
much as I do.
as much as I did say Rob, I meant to say Jeff. You're so right. No, someone proposed and then Julie. We This is the wrong place, the wrong time. But there's
Hmm.
receipts about how GCM does not like love as much.
Does not like it. Yes, for sure, for sure. Okay. We also got our first preview of Survivor 45.
Oh, can we talk about what I want to talk about, please, please,
Please,
please?
whatever you want.
At the end of the 45 trailer, we saw that final clip when we saw a little gavel and a hammer going
I
down.
missed that. I saw it on
No.
Twitter. That yes, but people, it looks like that we're teasing the auction is coming
Yes.
back. No matter, I think Maryanne. Let me just say, this is a hot take. Okay, they shouldn't have brought it back because no matter what they do, it will not live up to the expectations that people have for the auction.
Okay, Rob, sit down and
Yes.
leave. That
Pick one. Pick a
no,
lane, Maryanne. Am
no.
I sitting down or leaving?
No, the thing is, we know how to make let me live the hope, okay? I want to see the auction back. I want to see people going and voting for food and voting for items and advantages. Keep everything hidden if you're scared that people will hold the money.
Hmm.
Don't even have an advantage.
Yes.
Literally hide it in the food or don't even have an advantage and let everyone hold their money and then
Okay.
it's for nothing. Like I want to see what's gonna happen because the reason why they stopped the auction is because
Yes.
people started to game it. Change the
Sure.
rules up, okay? You added an hourglass and said that competitions don't matter. You can change the rules of an auction. It's not going to hurt people. I want to see it and I'm so excited. And like, if it's not there, I'm actually going to cry because I'm like, this is what I need to see. Like, I need to see the Survivor auction, okay? And
Hmm.
it's an hour and a half episodes now. So is the auction going to be longer? Like, please, thank
Oh, a
you.
longer auction.
Like
Okay.
20-minute segment of an auction.
All right, we'll see. But if it doesn't work, there's a lot of pressure on this auction where Jeff's going to say, "See, I told you, it's broken. We can't do it."
You know what? Sorry, I thought I heard a sound. You know what? if we do a season of the auction and it doesn't work out, at least we can have that one final hurrah, that one final we
Give it
asked for
away.
it, we
Yes.
tried, and it didn't work. Okay, like if Edge of Extinction can come back for season 40, the auction can come back one more time.
Yes. Okay. I hear that. All right. Um, let's just talk a little bit about Survivor 44 big picture, and then we'll take some questions from our
Yes.
chat. If you have questions, go ahead and post them. Jeff and basically all of production really hyped up Survivor 44. What were your thoughts overall now that this season is in the rearview mirror?
I really enjoyed it, and I understand why they hyped it up. You had massive characters like Carolyn and Jam Jam, and you got to see them for the whole season from the beginning to end. You had the dynamics of a showman. You had the dynamics of, like Carolyn and Jam Jam and Carson and Tika just all being together. You had the chaos that was reigning all around in the gameplay that you were seeing with people, just with Tika being at the center and people flip flopping and not knowing what was happening. So those are things that people, that production on a standpoint, when you're seeing the game, find entertaining. And so it goes and makes a perfect piece. And then the way with Jam Jam ending, winning in the end, it's a satisfying ending that, where you're like, this is a story that we can articulate very well and that people will understand and be happy about. So I understand why they were rooting for it.
Yeah.
And I also did enjoy the season.
Yes, I enjoyed the season very much as well. I really want to give flowers and credit to production of that. I feel like that this was far and away the season of the new era, even though it was like night and day. I feel like that the second half of the season was like the most restrained that they had been in terms of like doing a lot of production interference throughout the entirety of the new era. Now, I have to, because I am an optimist, believe it or not, hope that they feel like, okay, hey, we finally got to a good point where we're figuring out how we want to do this and what this should look and feel like. And so this is the way to go, and not just because, hey, we really like this group, so we're going to just let them cook.
It felt so nice to see, like, it was like the setting and execution, right? So you have the pre-merge where you're throwing all these advantages in the twist, and then you also have like the earn the merge, and then after the earn the merge, you have the half split tribal of setting up all of production's things. And after we go and set all these elements, then it's like you release the players to the wild, where it's like, okay, well, now you're just gonna have vote outs. You're gonna have vote outs every 2 or 3 days. Figure it out. So it felt as if, like, we had our cake and ate it. The production gets to have our cake, but we get to eat it too.
Carrot cake or chocolate cake, Maryanne?
Chocolate. Come on, carrot. I'm sorry, Carolyn. I'm so sorry. Carrot.
Yeah, that did seem a little odd that we got carrot cake also at the sanctuary.
No, they love carrot cake. I think it was carrot cake as well at my final 5 reward. That it was like spaghetti and wine and carrot cake, I want to say.
You know what? Perhaps that I feel like that, that too much chocolate cake could make you sick. Maybe it's like you sort of like want to even it out with like, I think that carrot cake might be a good like second slice of cake.
I think it's a good never slice of cake, Rob.
Oh, okay. I think it could be a good like palate cleanser slice of cake in between 2 pieces of chocolate cake.
That's when you sip water or take some tea, the herbal tea that you have with the cake.
Yeah, I'm not mad at a piece of carrot cake, like, but I just feel like I don't think it's not my favorite.
Okay, it's not my favorite either.
Okay, Maryanne, let's take some questions.
Before we take questions, there's one final thing which I want to say. I'm so sorry for cutting you off.
Yeah.
I remember.
What are you, Heidi?
I know, right? I wanted to go and just mention how last year I had an interview with you, and I said that one of the things that I want to see is more diverse winners. And I want to see people having the first of this and the first of that, and more people being like, this is the first XYZ winner, and more people with different identities and like being able to be represented. And I want to go and mention that did happen this season, with Jam Jam being the first LGBTQ winner, I think since season 15, which is like a 29 season gap, and the first person of color LGBTQ member to win Survivor. And that's just something which I wanted to point out, because that's something which is, like I said, I don't want, like, I want there to be less firsts because people are more represented in winners, and we're going towards that path. And that's, I think, one of the reasons as well too why I love the new era, because we're seeing more firsts, which means we're going to be seeing less firsts in the future, which is the dream.
Yeah. Okay, Maryanne, you should win another final tribal council. That was really great to point that out. I really am so happy for Jam Jam. I think that he's such a great character, and also I just think that he played such an incredible game. Really, really great. Okay, all right. Let's take some questions from our listeners. Okay. And then all right, how about start off with, okay, Ben has a question. Okay, Maryanne, of course,
Okay.
you were the one that really proliferated the curse of the M's. Ben says, Rob and Maryanne, every time a tribe's first boot has been a medevac, someone from that tribe has won. One world, co-wrong, David versus Goliath, season 42, Maryanne in 44. Coincidence?
I think not. I really don't.
It's really not the curse of the M. It's really the blessing of the medevac.
The blessing of the exit. I think that there's something about, especially when someone leaves your tribe so early, it bonds you as players, and you really feel the realness of Survivor, right? And this is a trend that we see not specifically in medevacs, but specifically when you see people having to go to tribal more or facing adversity more in the beginning of the game, they're usually more progressed, or so to speak, in the game than the people who haven't been able to actually play the game. So like you might see them running strategic circles. So if you lose someone in such a sudden way, you're going to then go and be like, okay, we have to stay close together. We have to work together because we can't let this sacrifice go to waste. So I do really think that there's something that goes with it.
Okay, speaking of the first medevac of the season, also, did you happen to see Bruce is back?
Yes.
Do you feel like that? What percentage of the Survivor audience recognized Bruce from being the first boot or the first medical evacuation from the season?
No, I think quite a bit, and I think especially the reason why is because he did a call back to his confessional in the season in this episode, you know, because he was like, "I'm so ready, woo," and he's like, "I'm back, baby, woo." So like, I think that they'll be like, "Hey, who's this guy? I recognize him." So I think like maybe I'd say 46%.
46. Okay, all right, not 66.67, but that's pretty good. Okay, all right. How about people want to know about the fire making different matchups. Okay, Maryanne. Okay, this is all right. You ready for this? Okay.
I have my pen.
All right. Here we go. From Paula.
If Carson won the fire making challenge, who wins? Ooh, that is hard, because I think that because of the person who wins, we see we see a story, more or less of different stories, right? So if Carson won, or like had win equity, we didn't see, like they might have hidden that in favor of Jam Jam story more. I think though that if Carson did go and make fire, I think that he would have had a very, very good chance to then go and win.
Yeah.
Like,
I had thought that Jam Jam would win in an Altica Final 3, but Mike and I on the feedback show went through it. And then, I think that we ultimately thought it might be 4-3-1, although we felt like that Carolyn was getting a vote, and she didn't even get a vote without Carson in the final 3. So what do we know from anything?
No, but I do think it would have been Carson leaning. I really think that, especially because it's like, the reason, what I think is that, especially if your ally is voted out, you get to scoop up your ally's achievements, right? But if it's you and your ally sitting at the end, you're then fighting about who gets what of all the things. And even as we saw in the tribal, that people were asking Jam Jam, Carolyn, what did you do that wasn't Carson's? And then Carson was going and supporting them. If Carson's at the final 3, I really doubt that Carson's going to be like, no. Like, we all did it together. Carson's going to sit down and let people ask the questions and be like, well, as my strategy, I did this. I went and made sure that Tika 3 were always together. Jam Jam tried to get Carolyn out, but like, I made sure that Jam Jam would calm his horses.
Okay. Sarah has a question. Were there any jury votes that surprised you?
I thought there'd be some more Carolyn votes. I thought maybe Franny would have voted for Carolyn. I thought maybe Lauren would have voted for Carolyn. I thought maybe Jamie would have voted for Carolyn. Maybe not all three, but I thought there would have been one vote.
Yeah,
from
I
all
would
three.
say that let me look at my notes from that I before they came back from commercial. I said, let me just write this down for posterity, and I'll show you how wrong I was on my predictions. I thought that it was going to be oh, I have the wrong document open, but I thought that I had Danny voting for Heidi. I did have that right. And then I think that I thought that Lauren would go for Heidi.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Franny would go for Carolyn. And I think I thought that there might be maybe one more. I thought that maybe Brandon could be a Heidi vote as well.
You see, I had Danny as Heidi. I had Franny, Jamie, and Lauren as Carolyn, and Carson, Kane, Brandon, and Matt
Yeah.
as Jam Jam.
Yeah, I think I had Carson as a Carolyn vote.
Okay.
Like I that because so many people had the clip of like Carson like coaching Carolyn, but he did say that Jam Jam was his number one. So I guess that was really he took Jam Jam on the final 5 reward. Any thoughts on that decision that Carson made?
I don't think that the person that you take at the final 5 reward really matters. I think that by final 5, there's a lot of pieces which are moving that like it's very hard, especially like when you're playing 26 days to make something completely massive come, especially if you don't have the relationships previously. So I don't think it was a bad move. Like I don't think it was any like I don't think it was especially good or especially bad. I think it was fine.
Okay. How about this question from Lexa Power?
Ooh, does Jam Jam have the best jury management of any winner? Who would be the top 3?
I mean, I think the Jam Jam did a really great job of I mean, I guess is this managing the jury? I mean, he did not like make people mad going out of the game, but he's just like so wonderful to like be around. I don't know, is that jury management or is that just a social game?
It's like a hover, right? Where it's like, I think when I think of jury management, I look back to my Big Brother fan days and I think about the way that like, how there's diary rooms where people exit where that's the time and you're like, I'm so sorry. I wanted you to be safe. Da, 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 da. So it's like, so the social game is people liking you, but jury management is when you're sending them out the door. Are they happy about the way that they're sending out, right? So I think like the queen of jury management, obviously we got to call props to Kim Spradlin, blindsiding people left and right. And I would be like, I love you, Kim. You're amazing, Kim, right? But like people enjoying you, I think like sometimes you don't have to manage a jury if you have a great social game.
But the great thing about like a Kim Spradlin when we talk about jury management, I think that jury management is really important when it's you that is being looked at as the person who is calling the shots.
Yes.
And Jam Jam really, and what the beauty of the Tika 3 was that they were able to make it look like, oh, okay, when we're voting out, that Danny is doing that. And then when we're voting out Danny, we're making it look more like, okay, well, this is a betrayal from this side. So he didn't really have to make it look like, oh, why did Jam Jam target me on this vote?
Exactly.
So he did just a great job, and his social game was able to really carry the day. Okay. How about Bryce's question? Bryce McNeil, curious to see where the hosts rank Carolyn, Carson, Jam Jam in the history of Survivor Power Trios. Mike Bloom and I were trying to do this the other day, but this might be, other than Lex, Big Tom, and Ethan, I think that this might be the most iconic trio and maybe the all-time most iconic trio.
I would comfortably say that as well too. And I think Big Tom and Ethan is a very good trio as well too. But like I think that just like the group of like such eclectic members, especially with the big
They're so
personalities.
different. Yeah.
Exactly. Like they're all so different. Like, of course, this is like Big Tom was like so different as well too. And Lex was like one of the most complex people ever casted in
Yes.
like
I
early
mean, all
reality
three of those
television.
guys are different too. But this is this group is also very different.
They're different and they pop out more. So I'd
Mhm.
say that they rank over you know, the
Yes.
Africa 3.
The Africa 3. Any other threes that come to mind for you?
Um any other you see there's not a lot of threes that like really pop up to me, you know. The only other three which I have is Jeremy, Tasha, and Spencer, and that was
Yeah.
kind of like a three of like later convenience kind of working
Right.
together,
Not
I
really till the final
guess.
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. Let's see. What other questions do we have? Okay. How about this one that is from Elizabeth. You want to take this one?
Question: will Heidi stepping into fire and then losing to Jam Jam get rid of some of the hype around sacrificing the music necklace at the final four? Elizabeth, I pray. I am
Mhm.
praying that that's what happens. Okay.
Do you
Like,
think it will happen?
um,
Not until at least Survivor 46.
Um, hopefully. I think so. I think so, you know, because the thing is, I think that having safety, then taking away safety, my hot take is that this should be viewed the exact same way that we all view Eric Reichenbach when he gave up immunity for the Black Widow Brigade. Okay. But
Mhm.
the thing is that when these people are sacrificing sacrificing for fire, it turned out well for them. It's a bad move that turned out okay, in my opinion. So we should be like, why are you trying to Eric Reichenbach it when you have safety and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna give it to the Natalie, the Jam Jam.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe if I think that smart players will realize like moving forward from this, like unless like you're and I don't want to say it was a bad move for Heidi because I think that she
Mhm.
needed a Hail Mary, but I don't think that like players who are in like a pretty decent spot should be like forced to have to do this.
Like, I just think it
But I think you're
develops.
also
Yeah.
you're in a tough spot because if you wanted to like hypothetically, and I don't know if this if I mean you didn't win the final four immunity challenge, but had you like you're in sort of a tough spot of like do you like say like hey I shouldn't have to be forced to give up my thing and then you do it in front of Jeff in front of production and then you run the risk of like a war dog of like hey the twist isn't on trial you're on trial. So you have to really sort of like be like to like sort of talk about how dumb of an idea it is that the final four fire making or the final four immunity challenge winner has to make the fire anyway.
Like, it's it 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 just it circumvents the point of winning immunity. You know, it's
Hmm.
like winning immunity is a curse. Like, and if winning immunity is a curse, then there's something flawed about the way people are thinking.
Yeah, yeah. Um, final four immunity winner still has not won the game since Chris Underwood. So
That's true.
that's a long streak now. Okay, and then let's have a one last question
Yes.
from, of course, the aforementioned Zach Wertenberger wants to know: do you think that the bank robber grandpa is getting a visit from the police tonight?
Oh, this is a call back to the 45
Yes,
trailer.
yes.
The bank robber
I
grandpa
believe
is
that's
getting a visit.
Brandon.
Brandon? I don't know. I think there's a statute of limitation. No, but he said, I'm going to rob. Like, this is the game and I'm going to rob it,
Yeah,
right?
maybe Grandpa isn't with us anymore.
Grandpa, no, what was it? Was he saying, oh no, oh, grandpa who robbed is going to get a visit from, no, there's a statute of limitations, isn't there, in the US? Like it's 15 years or something? They
I
can't
don't
get
know.
you?
I don't know.
I don't know American law, Rob, but like I think, but it's actually there's a whole moral thing about it, you know, where it's like if you let's say there's this guy whose wife is sick, but then after there's a chemist who finds the cure and then charges 10 times the price, right?
Oh, I
And
thought
the
this was
guy
like Breaking Bad. Yeah.
no, and the guy can't afford the price because the person's hiking it up more for
Mhm.
more, so he robs the person. It's like who's in the wrong? So that's one of the things where it's like, who's in the wrong for robbing it? At that point, are you going to go and like turn a blind eye? Which grandparent is it? Is it maternal or paternal? Is there history tracking? I think the grandpa's fine.
Okay. Grandpa's fine. All right.
Grandpa's fine.
Well, Maryanne, anything else about Survivor 44 you want to make sure that we get out there tonight?
Yes, I want to. This is a throwback. I want to give acknowledgement to Gabby, the initial emotional strategic player. She's the one who
Yes.
paved the way for players like me, for players like Carolyn, for players like Franny, who want to play and still have wear our emotions, but still play that strategic game. I think that when
Yes.
Gabby played, she was ahead of her time. People didn't give her the credit that she gave of like being able to go and like being emotional, still making the best strategic decisions for her game. And I think
hmm
that we now need to be looking at Gabby's game and giving her more grace about crying because we all cry.
Yes. And I do feel like that in that same sort of family tree, I feel like that Kellen is another person who really was on the forefront of saying, you know,
Mhm.
your emotions and your what your brain is telling you, and that's your gut. And it's a great way to set up something that we're very excited about that's coming to RHAP in June. As Kellen Bechtold has a brand new podcast series
Ooh.
coming June 7th to RHAP. It's called Road to Reality. Maryanne, you know, famously, you and I did a 5+ hour deep dive into your game. But Kellen is going to be doing a deep dive into the lives of people who went through this crazy survivor experiment. And how did they come out on the other side of all of this? How have they changed? That Survivor, it's such a big theme, especially now, of like, what does Survivor, how has Survivor like changed people by going through this process? Kellen is going to explore that with people in a new weekly series coming to RHAP this summer, Road to Reality. Head on over to robinsonwebsite.com/road to reality for more information on how to subscribe coming in 2 weeks to RHAP.
Ooh, that's exciting. I'm excited to listen to that one.
It's going to be very
Okay.
fun. It's going to be very fun that we have where Kellen has been doing. She's got some really fun people that she's talking to. And of course, she's a great interviewer. And so excited to bring everybody that here in our Survivor off season. And of course, we'll be doing so much with our patron community here over these next couple of weeks. I'll also be live on Thursday afternoon taking calls from the patrons on the patron happy hour. You can, of course, get access to all of our patron benefits when you head on over to robinsonwebsite.com/patron.
I
Okay.
love that. Become
Yes.
a patron. Get
Thank
yourself
you.
a little sticker when you go
Yes.
to Rob's live events.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, so much going on in our Survivor podcast feed, in addition to my exit interviews, my conversation with Steven tomorrow, plus Zach Wertenberger over the weekend. Head on over to robinsonwebsite.com/survivor feed to subscribe to all of the podcasts for all the reaction, wall-to-wall coverage of this Survivor finale.
Oh my gosh, we're done. Another season.
Yes. Okay. Now, do you watch The Ultimatum?
I do not watch The Ultimatum, but please. I know it's
Yes.
it's by the people who made Love is Blind, right?
Yes, I know that Omer is a big Love is Blind fan, so I wasn't sure if you had viewing parties when you all got together. But this season on The Ultimatum, I believe this is the second season of The Ultimatum. It's a queer love season. And so
Ooh.
the Ultimatum crew is going to be joined by Dr. Evie Jagoda to cover the brand new season of The Ultimatum coming to Netflix. Check that out in the Perfect Match podcast feed getting started. And then over counter programming Survivor tonight was part one of the Vanderpump Rules reunion show. And we have coverage of that in our Bravo TV podcast feed. Head on over to robhasawebsite.com/Bravo feed for that. You'll hear Brian Cohen, Ali Lasher, TikTok Nicole, and Haley Strong break down part one of the Vanderpump Rules. You don't follow the Vanderpumps, right?
I don't, but Omer also does
Oh
follow the
my God.
Vanderpumps. He follows
He's on
everything.
top of everything.
He
He's
really
on top of
is.
everything. And of course, everything that we're doing, you can make sure you subscribe completely for free at robinsonwebsite.com patreon.com/subscribe. It's links to all of our podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, thanks to our amazing listeners who have been with us for another season here of Survivor in the books here on Rob As a Podcast. It is wild to think about it. I believe this might be season 25 for me
Oh,
covering this crazy show.
wow. Oh my goodness. Congratulations for you.
Yes, thank you, Maryanne. And it's so nice to have people go through this crazy experience and then come out the other side and just become great friends and people who are contributors. And of course, I told you this when we were together in Toronto just a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
I love our friendship,
Mhm.
and I'm so happy whenever you come out to the podcast.
I love coming on to the podcast when I can. I try to make as much time as I can because I am busy every single Wednesday for some reason.
Mhm.
But now we have so much free time, especially since Big Brother isn't starting until August. Like, what are we gonna do? Touch grass?
I don't know. I mean, you and I feel like are the only people that aren't in Brooklyn for Bryce and Wendell tonight.
I know they're all here party. Like, this is the first watch party Omar and I are not together. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like a little piece of me is in America and it's just a little broken and I want to get it back. And I get texts from him seeing what's going on. And I'm like, we should be together. But I'm also
Mhm.
happy to let my little bird fly.
Let the bird fly. Okay. All right, Maryanne, where can people check out more of what you're doing?
Oh, people can check out what I'm doing on my social. Well, you can check out what I'm thinking on my social
Oh,
media on Twitter, Maryanne Oketch, and Instagram, Maryanne Oketch, and TikTok, Maryanne Oketch. And if you want to know what I'm doing professionally, I have a website, MaryanneOketch.com. And
mhm.
actually, immediately after this, I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up super early because I'm
Well,
actually doing a speech tomorrow.
okay. Well, thank you for staying up late with us and everybody else who joined us live. I will be back in the morning with our interviews with the final 5 from this season. So I'm very excited.
Mhm.
That's always a treat to get to do that. We'll have the podcast versions and also up on our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations again to Jam Jam, winner of Survivor 44. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.